We're in 16 Yud Bet. Tov Lakpid, it's good to be strict about, or to be careful about, B'ntilat Yadayim Shacharit, when you wash your hands in the morning. Al Chol HaDvarim Shetzachim Lakpid Behem, B'ntilat Yadayim L'Seudah. You should be as particular with washing your hands in the morning as you are about washing your hands for the meal. It seems to be that washing your hands in the morning, you could use different types of water, different types of things. It's less strict than washing your hands for bread. But still, our Rabbi suggests, when possible, to be as careful as you can with this water, and I'll give you examples. You should wash your hands from a utensil which has not been pierced with a hole or something like that. Now it seems to be that according to halakha, when you wash your hands in the morning, it's okay if the cup that you use has some kind of hole in it. It seems to be. But even though that's true, washing your hands for bread, you can't have a cup that has a hole in it, and therefore you should be careful also in the morning to wash your hands with a cup that doesn't have a hole in it.
I don't know anybody has cups now.
Maybe that's
a broken cup.
There should be at least a revi'it inside of the cup. I believe the modern measurement of that is 3.5 ounces, but don't hold me to it. I don't know, I'm just a berch. The water should be clean, meaning that its look, its appearance should not be changed. It should not be water that has been used for some kind of work, like you shouldn't have washed dishes with the water and then use it for washing your hands. And you should pour the water on your hands from your own. It should be you pouring the water on your hands, etc. Okay, Uifrat, especially Shiladat is page 61 at the top. Uifrat, especially Shiladat is Zohar Kadosh, according to the Zohar. V'kama me'aboteinu harishonim, and some of our earlier rabbis, Dvarim elu, these things, ma'akavim b'tilat yadayim shacharit, they would actually mean that you would not fulfill your obligation in the morning. So it seems like the poskim are okay with being lenient by washing your hands in the morning, but they suggest you be strict, like when you wash your hands for bread. And it seems like the Zohar and some of our other Rishonim are of the opinion that no, you can never be lenient, and so it's better anyways to be strict, that way you satisfy their opinions as well. But in any case, if you're unable to do so, Kagon, for example, let's say a person doesn't have enough water, you're on a camping trip or whatever it is. You don't have enough water. Clear. Let's say you're in a place where you don't have a cup. This happens very often with our traveling. They don't have a cup. I saw somewhere an inflatable washing cup. You know those toys, like inflatable beach balls? It's made out of the same stuff, and you can keep it in your pocket when you go on trips. Jewish invention.
Well, be prepared.
If you're on a camping trip, can you use your canteen, like the military canteens?
Yes.
If you have nothing else?
Yes. Or if he doesn't have water. Which was, you have water, but not water that wasn't used for something else.
I'm going to get myself in trouble yet again, or we're going to get ourselves in trouble.
Okay.
What's the source of the custom that if it's a kli that's made of metal, you take a towel to lift it in when you wash your hands, that it can transfer tuma? Or is there?
Do you know people that have such a custom?
Yes.
Interesting. Anybody else know anybody has such a custom?
When they wash,
yeah, you know such a thing?
Take the cup with a towel and pour like that. I'm using a towel because the coast can transfer tuma.
Yeah. You wash hands, and you don't wash the hands. You're already clean. You have to wash the towel.
No. It's to prevent tuma from the metal cup getting back on your hands.
No, I didn't know that.
Let me deal with this right after we finish this paragraph.
I didn't know that. Let me get this.
He told Yadav b'mayim elu, so you would wash your hands with this water, meaning either the water that doesn't have a cup or water that's been used before. And he's allowed to pray shacharit afterwards. Al semech netilazo, based on this netilah. V'yismoch al dat Maran Shulchan Aruch, and he should rely here on the opinion of Maran. The Rabbi Miraboteinu Harishonim, and many of our earlier rabbis, V'achronim, and our later rabbis, shekatvu, they write, shemo'ila netilah kazod netilat yadayim shacharit, that such a washing counts as washing your hands in the morning. Ulam lo yivarech al netilat yadayim klal, but you should not make a blessing of al netilat yadayim. V'chen lo yivarech al nikiyut yadayim, you also shouldn't make the blessing of on the cleaning of the hands. Maybe some say that you could make that blessing instead of on washing your hands. Also, you shouldn't make that. Ela yitol belo bracha, rather you should wash without a blessing. Sheklal gadol hu biyadenu, sheklal gadol biyadenu, it's a big rule in our hands, shesafek berachot lehaken. We have a big rule that says when you're in doubt as to whether you make a blessing, what do? You don't make the blessing. Okay. Vim lachar miken, and if after this, motzeh mayim, he finds water, uchli or a cup, haruyim netilat yadayim lesuda, which are fitting for washing your hands for a meal, meaning they're filling all those requirements. Yachzor v'yitol yadav, you should go back and wash your hands again. Why?
So you can say the bracha.
K'dei lachush l'dat hazor hakadosh v'raboteinu ha'mekubalim, in order to fulfill the opinion of the Zohar and our Kabbalistic rabbis, 61. Shesovrim, that they hold shetzarich lachmir b'kol hanav, they hold you have to be strict about all those details that you have to be strict about when you wash your hands. And menat la'asir haruach ra'am aledav, to get rid of that ruach ra, that evil spirit from your hands. Do you make a blessing when you wash the second time, though?
If you
Yes,
Why yes?
because he did it the first time.
Okay, but did it count? Were you able to daven the first time?
Yes.
So did that mean that your hand washing counted for something?
Yes, but to satisfy the Kabbalist completely.
So is satisfying the Kabbalist then enough to warrant the blessing?
I think so. You have a doubt regarding this too, because
Right.
the doubt is you might have already satisfied the first time.
Ach lo yivarech klal, but you should not make a blessing at all.
Twice?
You wash the second time to fulfill the opinion of the Kabbalists and the other Rishonim. But you don't make a blessing in the second time. Shaharei ledat Rabbi poskim, because according to many of our poskim, yetza yedei chovah b'tilat harishona, when you already fulfilled your obligation, when? The first time. Ve'af bazeh yesh lo masavek b'chol hakel, and also here you would say you're in doubt, so you don't make a blessing. Very good. Umikol makom, but in any case, im lo shahaz zman rav ben shtei antilot, if you do not wait too long between washing your hands the first time and washing your hands the second time, Rashai levarech achan tilato hashniya, you're able to make a blessing after you wash your hands the second time. I don't agree with this last halacha. Because this is going on the premise that you can make a blessing after you wash your hands.
Right.
So I don't agree. The first part I agree with, not the second part.
This is a bit more of a philosophical question. The relationship between...
We leave it up to you, by the way.
Seriously, I'm asking myself.
No, it's good, yeah.
The relationship between the action of the mitzvah and the bracha, there seems to be a contingent one. It isn't an automatic thing. You do
Absolutely.
a mitzvah, you say a bracha, but sometimes you could do a mitzvah without saying a bracha.
I spoke about this to the ladies last Monday. Did we speak about it here? About ladies
No.
making a blessing in lieu of an etrog?
Yeah.
We did.
In lieu of an etrog.
Did we speak about the difference between the opinions of Maran, the Ramah? What did we say last week?
That women don't.
Did we mention the logic that goes into that at all? Did we? I don't remember how.
Like that they're allowed
for
to.
one thing.
Like obligate, like versus like it's a good idea, or it's like it's a mitzvah, but not an obligation, not an obligatory mitzvah.
But did we speak about like the differences between these two opinions?
What do you say? You said Sfardim follow Maran.
Right.
A woman, if she wants to, can shake without a bracha and no shekiana. Rabbi Yonatan disagrees and allows women to make brachas where they're not obligated. But that's a minority opinion. But the ladies in Morocco...
And did we mention anything else aside from the ladies of Morocco who did make a blessing? Okay, maybe you'll allow me to take you on a tangent. This tangent, though, is crucial in understanding very many opinions in halakha. I mean, this is the tangent we'll take now, but it's worth recording because you will use this again in your life.
Okay.
When a lady wants to perform a mitzvah, that is time-bound. We know that ladies are exempt from time-bound mitzvot, meaning mitzvot that you can only perform within a certain amount of time. That's called a mitzvat aseh, a positive commandment, shehazman grama, which time is what binds it. Yeah,
What about all the holidays of Shabbat?
very nice. They're commanded in all the not that this is negative. There are passive mitzvot and active mitzvot. For example, there's a mitzvah to keep Shabbat and a mitzvah not to violate Shabbat, right? Nobody argues that not violating a lady has to be obligated in that also. But in the action of a time-bound mitzvah, she's not obligated. Different reasons have been given over the ages why she's exempt. Many are of the opinion that the reason why a lady's exempt is Hashem felt that if we would obligate her in every mitzvah like a man, to pray 3 times a day with a minyan, to put on tefillin, to put on talit, to do this, to do that, she would never have time to do things which she has to do in her life, which is mainly to take care of herself, her family, and her husband.
But even Peru Revu is not
Exactly.
incumbent on women.
Right, but that's for a different reason.
Yeah.
Here, this is specifically time-bound mitzvot. There are time-bound mitzvot which ladies perform. Those are exceptions to the rule. Chanukah candles, Purim, Megillah, these things, Pesach, certain things by Pesach. The reason being, our rabbis tell us, Af hen hayu ba'oto hanes, the ladies were actively involved in that miracle, and therefore the rabbis did not exempt them from performing those mitzvot. But suffice it to say that mitzvot ased, I don't like positive, active mitzvot that have to be done, that are time-bound, ladies are exempt from doing. For example, a lulav v'netro. Ladies are not obligated to shake lulav v'netro. Can they if they want to? Who says?
Yes, say yes.
You say yes. Oh, Barry says yes. But who? Like, why? Why can they do something they're exempt from?
Well, they can also daven shachri.
You see that a lady has the ability to obligate herself in a mitzvah. The question is, let's say a lady says, I want to shake lulav v'netro. Does she have the ability to obligate herself in the mitzvah to the extent where she would be making the blessing on the mitzvah? Why not? If she's already doing the mitzvah, if she's obligating herself, so why can't she make a blessing?
She wasn't commanded to do it.
Okay, and what does being
That's in
commanded?
the bracha.
Very nice. This is the thing. In the bracha it says, Asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. We were sanctifying our mitzvot and we were commanded on the tzivot to shake the lulav. A lady was not commanded to shake, so that she obligated herself. Good, so she can shake the lulav. But to make a blessing which is false, Maran, the Rambam say, who says that she can make such a blessing? And therefore she's allowed to perform the mitzvah. She gets the mitzvah like everybody else. But she's not allowed to make a blessing due to the language of the blessing. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very logical approach. Now before we get to the other half of the coin, what happens if a person does a mitzvah without making a
That's
bracha?
the blessing is of
What?
the lady does the blessing.
According to the Rambam in the Shulchan Aruch, they're saying God's name in vain and violating one of the 10 commandments.
They don't know the rabbis allow them.
So we'll get to that other half of the coin. The first half of the coin.
Only Rabbi Yonatan.
The question now is as follows. What happens if a person performs a mitzvah without making a bracha on it? Do they get the mitzvah?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Does it stop them from receiving the mitzvah?
No.
No. Rather, making the bracha is something that is not it doesn't hold you back. It's not ma'akev in rabbinic terms. It doesn't hold you back from performing the mitzvah. So this notion that, if I don't make the bracha, I'm not really doing the mitzvah, that's a false notion that someone put into our heads. It's not a Jewish idea. If you put on tefillin without a bracha, so you lost out the ability to make a blessing, because you're already wearing the tefillin. But so what? You're still wearing tefillin. You're still getting the mitzvah. Right? When did brachot come into being? Do you know?
That's a good question.
How long have Jews been made? Is the obligation to make a bracha biblical or rabbinic?
Rabbinic.
Some must be biblical. Some must be biblical.
Like the tzitzit?
Just
No,
I mean, just the Birkat Kohanim, right? Or Birkat Kohanim is biblical,
That's my
right?
point. Birkat Kohanim is not a blessing. It's not a blessing in the conventional Baruch Ata Hashem fashion. The Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam formula,
Also, bracha,
if you like to call it that. Who put those into existence?
Rabbanan.
The rabbis. By the way, this is the root of the rule. One of the roots Safek brachot nakel. When you are in doubt as to whether you make a blessing or not, don't make the blessing. Because the obligation to make the blessing is rabbinic. But if you say God's name in vain, that is a biblical prohibition. So again here, you always choose to be safe on the biblical side and violate the rabbinic side. That's where, it's not a random rule that we made up when you're in doubt as to when you make a blessing, don't make the blessing. What we're saying is, do the mitzvah, because you'll be fulfilling a biblical commandment. But don't make a blessing because you may be violating a biblical prohibition, and the rabbis there would say, don't make the blessing. Okay. Now that you know that making brachot does not hold you back from doing a mitzvah. By the way, you should know this is why we Sfaradim, for example, are so adamant that someone who lights candles or somebody who washes their hands shouldn't make a blessing afterwards. Because let's say you're right, that you can make a blessing afterwards. At the end of the day, you already did the mitzvah. If you already did the mitzvah, then you don't, it's just like you put on tefillin, you forgot to make a blessing, you don't make a blessing now. So too with washing your hands, so too with candles. Maybe you're right, maybe you are able to make a blessing afterwards. Could be. But now you're in a classic situation of doubt. This is the you don't have a more classic situation of doubt than here. Some rabbis say you would make a blessing. Some rabbis say you don't make a blessing. Don't make the blessing. You already did the mitzvah. So why would you now stick your head in between two of the biggest giants in the world and say, oh, I'm going to make a blessing because that's my custom. Okay, so you don't want to change your custom, make a blessing first? Fine, that's your problem. But to make a blessing afterwards, now you're sticking your head in between a situation which is doubt. But let's backtrack for a moment. So that's Maran and the Rambam. Maran and the Rambam say a lady can't make the blessing of, or any other blessing which has
Time bound.
that's time bound, and you would make Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivan. Comes along Rabbeinu Tam, and Rabbeinu Tam says the following. Rabbeinu Tam is a grandson of Rashi, and very influential in the Ashkenazi world. It's an old source. Rabbeinu Tam says no. With all due respect, you got it wrong. When a lady says Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav, she's not saying I was commanded. Rather, what is she saying? We, the Jewish people, have been commanded. And the moment she chooses to obligate herself in a mitzvah, she's now able to say, you commanded us, meaning not me necessarily, but the whole Jewish people. And she is allowed to say a blessing. She's allowed to say such a blessing.
But then she's obligated to keep doing
Let's
it.
put aside the obligation to keep or not do something. In regards to the blessing. Do you understand what Rabbeinu Tam is saying?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Would Maran agree with Rabbeinu Tam?
Grammatical.
No, he doesn't agree. He disagrees with, he says, you're doing the mitzvah, not somebody else doing the mitzvah. When you're doing the mitzvah, the Kiddishanu plural is just because you're doing it in a plural fashion. But you're referring to yourself, and if you're not obligated, you can't make the blessing. Rabbeinu Tam says, I disagree. It's semantics, true, but us means us, and she may be saying, I'm not obligated, but us, my husband is, the guy at Shul is, whoever else. She's talking about the Jewish people. It seems to be that the ruling of Maran and the Rambam was the ruling of Jewry at one point in time. And definitely the Sfaradim all follow this reasoning. The Ashkenazim, some, but in later generations, everybody followed Rabbeinu Tam. Especially since the Ramah says that you're allowed to make a blessing, because Rabbeinu Tam said you can make a blessing. Now the problem of majority and minority does apply here. The minority of poskim say you can make a blessing. The majority of poskim, the Rambam, Maran, they say you can't make a blessing. But okay, let's allow, because there's a minhag and it has an original basis, so we allow them to make a blessing. According to Rabbi Vari Yosef, anyone who follows the Shulchan Aruch and he would hear a lady make a blessing on Lav Netog or on Sukkah or any time-bound mitzvah, would not be allowed to say Amen. Because she is violating the words of Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, if we would hear a lady make a blessing on Lav Netog, we would not answer Amen. So this is the split. Do you or don't you? You guys hold on to your chairs? Want to go on a roller coaster ride?
Yeah. Take us there.
There's a book called Sheilot V'Tshuvot Min HaShamayim. Questions and answers from heaven. We learned about this book in our first 4 or 5 classes. We quoted something from there. This book, according to many rabbis, is an ancient Jewish book written by one of the Rishonim. According to many of our other rabbis, it's a counterfeit by a Reform rabbi in Europe. And we don't know what to do with this book, aside from, if it backs up an existing halakha, we follow it. If it doesn't, we reject it.
So we don't need the book.
There have been many rabbis, though, throughout our history, that have viewed this book as completely authentic. So let's see how we're going to phrase this. Maybe I'll read it to you. Can someone bring me you see there's a whole set of red books, Chazon Ovadia they're called. There's one on Sukkot over there. No, to the right. Yeah. No, to the left. The middle. Yeah, right there. It should say Sukkot on one of the books. In the middle of the book. What? No, they all say Chazon Ovadia. Only one says Sukkot.
Look, all the books look alike.
Yeah.
Doesn't help.
I think I put it back there. Maybe I didn't. Perfect. Maybe he has it in there. Maybe not. I have the book at home that shows V'Tshuvot Min HaShamayim, but thank you.
So what's the author of the book again? What's the author of the book? Questions and answers from heaven.
Either an ancient Kabbalist or a Reformer.
Yeah.
So they had amazing Reform rabbis in those days. Who actually knew.
Started in Europe.
Yeah, of course, in Germany, but who actually knew enough to tangle with halakha. Today, they probably don't even know what halakha is.
Today they wouldn't know which way to hold the book. Okay. Classic of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. If he doesn't like the opinion, he won't quote it.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Okay. Let me tell you what I remember by heart. In the Shel V'Tshuvot Min HaShamayim. This could be even one of the first questions he asked. This book, let's assume for a moment it's real. And many of our rabbis consider it to be real. He claims to have, whenever he had a question of a halakha he didn't know, he would write it down and put it under his pillow. And at night he would have a dream, and the heavenly court would appear to him and answer his question. And the way they would answer his question was a very poetic fashion. As is common of people, poetic, dafka. Everything is rhyming, everything is an allusion to another verse, also metaphoric. And he asked him this question. Does a lady make a bracha on a lulav etrog, or does she not? In which the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala supposedly answers him back that Hashem loves the blessings of the Jewish people, and you should always tell people to make more blessings. So she understood that a lady should make a blessing 11 etrog. Okay. We have a rule in Torah, lo b'shamayim. The Torah is not given to the heavenly court, rather it's decided by the rules down here. That's a basic tenet of rabbinic Judaism. Putting that tenet aside, the Chida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai writes that he, when he was the rabbi in Morocco, was always telling people, don't make blessings, don't make blessings, don't make blessings. Until once he found this book. And he said he read what it said in the book. He said, if that's what they say in the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala, who am I to argue? And he told ladies that if they don't have a custom to make a blessing, they should continue not making a blessing. But those who do have the custom to make a blessing should not stop. This, because the Chida was a Moroccan rabbi, later developed in some brush fire fashion to become the custom of all Moroccan Jewry. that ladies make a blessing and leaven it all. Okay. The question is, do you throw out Maran, the Rambam, the halachic process, because the Chida, who was a huge rabbi, saw this book and changed his mind? This is always going to be tradition versus halakha, and I can't answer this question for you. That's okay, but he felt that it was correct. So, this is why you'll find today some Sephardic Jews whose wives do make a blessing on the Tov, because there were Sephardic rabbis who changed their mind after they saw this book, and especially after they saw the Chida, who was a very accepted Sephardic rabbi. But the original Sephardic custom was ladies don't make blessings at any time by mitzvah. Here's where you have to hold on to your chairs, because we're going to go on a roller coaster. What's the difference really between Maran and Rabbeinu Tam? Why did they both come to different conclusions? One says they are obligated on mitzvot. One says they are able to make a blessing on mitzvot, and one says they're not able to make a blessing on mitzvot. Both agree that they're exempt from time-bound mitzvot. So one says, listen, they can't say Tzivanu, we were commanded, and Rabbeinu Tam says no, they can say it because it's not referring to them, it's referring to the collective Jewish people. But what's really the argument over here? I'll tell you, this was a new piece of Torah for me. I was found it in one of the mornings of Chag. I was learning before Shul, and I found this piece was incredible. You have to listen carefully. When Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people, did Hashem give the whole Torah to all the Jews and then exempt ladies from time-bound mitzvot? Or did he give the Torah to all the men and give the ladies only the mitzvot, excluding those which were time-bound? Listen to what I'm saying again. Did Hashem give the ladies the whole Torah and then exempt them from time-bound mitzvot? Or did he give them just the mitzvot that are not time-bound?
No, it's given to everybody.
This is an argument in the Talmud.
I don't understand.
Is it that the rabbis or Hashem, whoever it is, exempted ladies from mitzvot that they were obligated in? Or is it that they were never obligated in them in the first place?
Good question. So what sources would we look at for that?
It was a logic thing. And based on what a person's personal tradition would be. It seems that Maran and the Rambam are of the opinion that ladies were never obligated in time-bound mitzvot. In which case, they can never say, Asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. Even if they choose to obligate themselves in it. Meaning, we give them the ability to obligate themselves, but not the ability to bless. Because they were never obligated in the first place. Whereas Rabbeinu Tam seems to be of the opinion, no, ladies were all obligated in these mitzvot, and then they were exempt from them.
Why?
For whatever reason. Why ladies were exempt from time-bound mitzvot.
At what point were they?
It's a good question. So, according to Rabbeinu Tam, a lady who chooses to go back to her previous level of being obligated is now able to make a blessing. And says this Mefaresh, I don't remember the name of the book, he says that this is the reason for the dispute between Maran and the Ramah, between Rambam and Rabbeinu Tam. In the understanding of, were ladies ever really obligated in time-bound mitzvah in the first place?
But then if you're talking about a status or a state, you get into the issue of picking and choosing. You obligate yourself.
What do you mean?
I like to wave a lulav and etrog, but I don't like to daven or put tefillin up.
Oh, very nice. If a lady were to ask me, can I shake a little bit with? I'd say there are 101 mitzvahs you should start with first. Right? But nobody's asking me. So now we're doing damage control. Do you make a blessing or do you not? Absolutely right. People choose they want to be strict about something. Yeah, but did you finish the rest of the Torah to now be strict about something? The answer is always going to be no. So why are you being strict? Because they don't have a derech in Judaism. And the same thing with ladies today. I'm not telling a lady she can't shake a little bit. But if she were to really do HaShamayim nefesh, what should I obligate myself in? Pray 3 times a day first. It's more important. So you connect love and fine. So do a little bit of also. But that shouldn't be the only mitzvah that you do the whole year. But that lady who doesn't daven, it's a big problem. It's a big problem. I'm very angry at the poskim, Sfaradim included, mostly Sfaradim, who exempt a lady from davening.
Are they exempting a woman from davening because it's an daily thing?
It's a time-bound mitzvah.
Yeah. But wouldn't women be encouraged to pray when they can?
Yeah, absolutely. The women are exempt. Women are obligated to pray at least one prayer a day.
You mean it's like a bracha?
Right, according to the Rabbi. According to others, one whole prayer. I don't like this
You
opinion.
can,
It's Maran. Maran
you
says.
can choose.
I'll tell you, Rabbi Yosef writes that a lady. Sorry, a lady who wants to daven, Shachrit, let's say,
Thank God we made it.
she can't say blessings during her tefillah with Hashem's name.
Shemona Esrei.
What's this now?
Yeah,
When a woman does tefillah, she can't.
the Ben Ish Chai writes the same thing. A lady who prays because she's not obligated in prayer can pray, but without Hashem's name and the blessings.
How can you do that?
They have special siddurim for ladies now.
And it doesn't have God's name in it?
It has God's name, but not in the blessings.
So like a namidah.
Like they'll say, Baruch Yotzer Or V'Rech Hoshech Hozeh V'Ertakol.
Is that only the Ben Ish Chai?
But how about the Amidah?
It's the Sfaradim. So here's the thing. The question is, when Rambam and Maran say you're not able to make blessings on mitzvot which you're not obligated in, is that specifically mitzvot which include Asher Kiddishanu B'mitzvotav V'tzimanu, or is that any blessing that she's not obligated to make? Our approach, the approach of Chachmei Sfarad, the original Sephardic rabbis, is that Maran and the Rambam only referred to mitzvot that say Asher Kiddishanu B'mitzvotav V'tzimanu. Rabbi Yosef, he felt no, the opinion was any blessing, any time with Hashem's name. With all due respect, I don't believe that he's correct. There are dozens of Sephardic rabbis who disagreed with him. Somehow this became the thing. And what it does is it just discourages girls to daven. I knew once a girl was in an Ashkenazi school, Beis Yaakov, and they said that as the grades go on, they start them off praying 3 times a day, and then they lower it to 1 time a day. Praying is like eating. A girl who doesn't daven is not going to be connected to Hashem. And to take that away is such a silly, I'm not calling an argument in Halakha silly, don't get me wrong. You have to know who you're dealing with. Tell a lady that she doesn't have to do, I don't know, whatever says you like to give them to do. But to pray, she should pray 3 times. She should pray 10 times a day. All of our grandmothers prayed. Maybe not with a siddur, but they prayed. And today we've taken that away from them also. For what? For a lulav v'netra? Skip the lulav v'netra. I struggle very much with halakha.
It seems like priority is one of the big problems in teaching Torah these days.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking about that in terms of like the story of the poor Jew who starved his family to buy a perfect etrog.
Right. I spoke about that on Shabbat.
We also know that, I mean, from what I've read in history, that because of the oppression in Europe and other places, even in Sephardic countries, or maybe chauvinism, women gradually became very ignorant, which wasn't necessarily historically true.
Right.
Before that.
Right. It's unfortunate.
They learned it from the European Goyim.
Also from the Arabic Goyim. It wasn't any better over there. It's not a good thing. And we don't need to perpetuate it today. Baruch Hashem, I say the level of Torah education for women today has been raised very high. Ladies today have very many opportunities to study, to learn, to pray, to do all kinds of things. In my own Dalet Amot, in my own area of personal life, I struggle with the kind of Torah that ladies learn or teach. It can be recorded. I'm not embarrassed what I'm about to say. I'm very happy that ladies are teaching ladies Torah. It's much better than men teaching ladies Torah. Much better. Much better. But, unfortunately, just because you're married to a rabbi doesn't make you a rebbitzin. Is that what I said? Just because you're married to a rabbi doesn't make you a rebbitzin. If you're not educated in your own right, how do you expect to be an authority on anything? There are ladies who are not married to rabbis and know much more than ladies who are married to rabbis.
Right.
And it's a big problem, because what these rebbitzins end up doing is their ignorant Judaism is now perpetuated to the masses. It's taught to other people. It's brought out to the... And then all of a sudden you find that ladies, they're not actually studying Torah. They're studying like... I don't know, they do like ritual dancing and sticking their head into challah and all kinds of things like that. Like why is that what ladies learn? Why is that Torah?
Stick your head in the challah. I'm
exaggerating. Right? Suddenly Torah becomes about the different worlds and the different atmospheres and all kinds of... What about Torah? What about Tanakh? What about Halakha? What about Musar? What about that? There's so many things to learn. I knew in Yerushalayim Rebbitzins who we would have to stand up for. The Rebbitzins that walk into a room, they could paskin halacha if you ask them. And then you see other people, it's like, what are you teaching? Just certain things that are very, when I was dating, I remember, I was looking for, my rabbi said, you're not going to find a chavruta. I said, Rabbi, I'm not looking for a study partner. But I'm looking for somebody who's competent. Baruch Hashem, I have a library in my house, and my wife has her own library in her house. When my wife has a question, she doesn't always ask me. She goes to Shulchan Aruch, she opens it up, she looks at Mishnah Berurah, she says, if it wasn't for that, she wouldn't be allowed to teach other people Torah. Who gave you the license? Because you married a rabbi, that now makes you an authority on something? That makes you an authority on how to make potato kugel. I don't know, that makes you... A person has to... So just the fact that ladies are learning doesn't mean that what they're learning is correct. And that's your job as a husband to help ladies discover what they should be learning and shouldn't be learning. There are rabbis and rabbitans who teach today that people should not listen to. I'm afraid of mentioning names. People are... Everyone gets turned on by a different person, and chaval to tell somebody what they shouldn't listen to. But there are people who are not qualified as Jewish teachers, even if they have qualifications. I'm not a fan of burning books or things like that, but you can put them in the Geniza. Somebody asked me about a book which I said, it's good for put in the Geniza box. It's not a book you should read. It's not. You can tell, certain people, they became popular, but they're not Talmidei Chachamim. It's not a good thing. Okay, one day. But regarding love and Tov, that would be the difference in Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. Were ladies actually obligated in the first place? And then we have to get to our department, which is what we're talking about right now. You have to ingrain it in your head that just because you don't make a blessing on something doesn't mean you're not doing a mitzvah. I had this discussion with my wife now. She said, it really gets disheartening. Second day of Chag, she's like, maybe I shouldn't light candles. Because if I'm not making a blessing, then why should I light candles? So we sat down, we studied together, and it came out. It's not that she didn't know, a reminder that just because you're not making a bracha, because you want to follow halacha, doesn't mean that you're not doing the mitzvah. Rav Soloveitchik has a beautiful book. I suggest you read it. It's a short book. You can read it in 2 days if you feel like it. The Halachic Man.
Beautiful book.
The Halachic Man. Hasidim hate this book. Yeah. They felt like Rav Soloveitchik came back to be another Vilna Gaon. It's not. Someone who reads the book properly will realize that there's no contradiction here with Kabbalah and his book Halachic Man.
I think that's one.
Rabbi Soloveitchik, this book, if you would like to understand, not halacha itself, but the philosophy of halacha. An incredible book. And has anyone read this book?
Yes.
Read it. Anybody else?
Many years ago.
Moshe Chaim just started it, so we were discussing it yesterday.
Now, the first part of the book is written in English that I don't know who knows how to read. But the rest of the book is... I learned it in Hebrew, but I looked at it in English once, and I didn't know if it was English or Chinese or something else. But he was a very academic person, so his language is very often lofty.
Philosophers,
yes.
Schopenhauer.
So, Rabbi Soloveitchik puts forth this premise that there is a halachic man and a religious man. A religious man.
Yes.
So the halachic man and the religious man are not only not two people, but they're two enemies. They're the opposite sides of the coin. I'll give you an example. The religious man sees a sunset in La Jolla. Wow, look at the sunset, Hashem, you're so amazing. Da, 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 da. The halachic man says, with all due respect to the sunset, I have to turn my back to it and pray mincha right now. Because the halachic man knows that connecting to Hashem is not looking at the sunset screaming to Hashem, rather it's turning your back to the sunset, facing Yerushalayim, and praying mincha the way that our rabbis put it together. And what can come out of this book is that halakha is a very cold, cruel methodology, but it's not. Rav Soloveitchik quotes his grandfather, Rabbi Chaim of Brisk. Chaim of Brisk was perhaps one of Europe's greatest minds. It's a person that is unparalleled anywhere else in the world. Chaim of Brisk he invented roller coasters, not just rode them. Rav Chaim of Brisk was a brilliant rabbi, and he once came out of shul, and he saw there were little kids playing, and one of the kids was crying. So he said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "No, we're playing horse. Every kid rides in the back of another kid, and I don't have a horse. Because it's 5 of us, and you need 6 to have a horse." So Rav Chaim Brisk said, okay. He bent down on the floor, and he played horse with the kids. And he was the horse. And someone walked by, saw the rabbi in the dirt with kids on his back, and got very angry at him. And says Rav Soloveitchik, this is between a halachic man and a religious man. The religious man would start to make a big problem. Oh, the rabbi doesn't respect himself, because that religion and religion. So the halachic man says, you walk by a kid who's in pain, you have to take care of the kid, because that's your halachic obligation. You're not aloof, you're not higher than anybody else because you're a rabbi. You have a halachic obligation that comes first. And I suggest you read this book deeply. The religious man says, if I do a mitzvah without a bracha, forget about it, I shouldn't do the mitzvah, it just doesn't mean anything to me. The halachic man says, I don't understand. Hashem says that if I do a mitzvah without a bracha, it counts as a mitzvah. So who am I to start putting my own feelings in here? I was once teaching a class to ladies in Jerusalem. I said, where do tovel dishes if you don't have a mikveh? Where do you tovel dishes?
Ocean, lake.
In the ocean, lake, whatever, right? A live body of water. So one lady said, but I don't understand, what about the shrimp and the lobsters inside of the ocean? It's going to make it not kosher. So what do you tell such a fool? I said, batel b'shishim. It's nullified in 60. Yeah, there you go. That's not the real answer. The real answer is Hashem says that an ocean is going to purify your vessel. What are you thinking now about the lobsters and the crabs?
Yeah.
You're not a halachic man, you're a religious man. It doesn't feel right for you. Rav Peretz always gives a classic example, and I don't know that Rav Peretz ever read Rav Soloveitchik's work. He does, if you remember Rav Soloveitchik, but Rav Peretz, anything philosophical he puts aside, he doesn't touch it. So, I once asked a question, he gave me this answer. He said, what do you do if it's Erev Pesach, you're sitting at the Seder, and you only have one matzah? One matzah. The problem is that some fool took your matzah and put it in the bag with a loaf of challah. And the challah was only partially baked and it stuck to your matzah.
You do that nowadays?
What do you do?
Scream.
I asked a rabbi.
Break up a piece of
And you're saying, and that's the one good one, or there's one
It's
good
the
one?
only
and
matzah
it's the
you
only
have.
one you got. Oh,
And you have a biblical, the rest of the Chag you don't have to eat matzah, but the first night of Pesach, and in Chutz La'aretz, the 2 nights of Pesach, you have to eat matzah. You can't opt out of eating matzah.
You walk 8 days to find another matzah.
You,
The whole Chag stuck to the whole as a pita, whatever you want to. It's a lafa.
The piece that touched the challah.
No.
Then it's not all.
Yeah, only one
you
piece,
scrape,
one way makes it,
you scrape.
Says
you chisel,
halakha, you take the bread off and you scrape the rest of the bread off and you eat the matzah.
Common sense?
Imagine telling this to your wife.
Ah!
That would be the reaction.
Throw in the trash.
You have to be a halachic man, not a religious man. What determines what's right and wrong is not what you feel like based on your Jewish experience. Rather, what does halakha tell you is right and wrong. It's a discipline. It's a way of life. It's not just a approach. Halakha, it's a mistake that it's another area of Jewish law. Halakha literally means how to walk, how to think, how to breathe, how to understand things as a Jew. If a person doesn't think like halakha, they're going to be confused. And people who don't think like halakha and study halakha hate halakha. Because halakha is their enemy. Because halakha confines them to discipline. They don't want discipline. They want free-for-all. They want everything that feels good to me should be good.
But they end up being more strict than halakha in many ways.
Right, because they don't know it.
But the thing, I always, I've read this book decades ago, and I always felt that example of the sunset was not a good one.
Now why? Let's hear.
Because I think the appreciation of the sunset is an artistic, aesthetic aspect of a human being, not a religious thing. Okay, you could say Baruch Hashem, the sun, but you could also say
And
something
anyways, they're
else
not
too.
mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And
Rav Soloveitchik is giving you a situation where the sunset and tefillah are mutually exclusive. He agrees you can look at the sunset. He agrees.
But if you need to daven mincha now, this is the last chance to do it. Yes, of course he would be correct.
I believe that.
But you should time your mincha.
I believe that Rav
in such a way that you-
Rav Soloveitchik actually didn't give the example of sunset. It could be that I made a mistake. I believe Rav Soloveitchik gave the example of sunrise. That Rav Chaim of Brisk was once sitting on his porch watching the sunrise. And everybody was watching the beauty of the sunrise. And he said, I'm going to miss Nitz just because I want to watch the sunrise. And he went to go pray Nitz.
Oh, so that's what you
There would be mutually exclusive. Do you pray Nitz?
Would they pray what?
Do you pray the Nitz prayer? Or do you watch the sunrise?
You could watch a few minutes of it. And then,
You get time for praying.
You can catch the beautiful
Yeah.
clouds before.
I agree. It doesn't have to be a perfect example.
Because, I mean, you know, you're not halachic if you don't really appreciate the sunset.
Absolutely.
There's that famous mashal in the Talmud about if you two Talmid Chachim are talking about what a beautiful tree this is, it's an interruption to their learning.
The Mishnah speaks even worse about it. I have to look for it.
David?
I remember someone said, "Give us back our beautiful trees. Don't take our trees away from us."
The Mishnah says that if a person is walking and they're studying Torah and they notice a beautiful tree and they say, "Maya fayin anzo," how beautiful is this tree? Harei ze mitchayev ben ashro. This one is liable to be put to death. And most pshat commentators understand it like that, like you shouldn't interrupt your learning for anything. Rabbi Aaron, I once asked Rabbi David Aaron this question. And he gave a beautiful answer according to Kabbalah. The Kabbalists don't understand this Mishnah like this. The Kabbalists say that the reading of the Mishnah is more correct like this. If you truly understood Torah, and you realize that everything in the world is a part of Torah, when you look at the tree, and you say how beautiful this tree is, and you consider looking at a beautiful tree an interruption from your life of Torah, then you're liable for the death penalty. Because you don't understand that that tree has a place in your life of Torah. And says the Mekubalim, Rabbi Aaron told me this pshat, that that's what it means. He's put to death, not literally put to death, but he lost the meaning of Torah if he sees it as detached from the beauty of the tree in this world.
And on the other hand, if you look at prayer as a ritual that is divorced from the reality of the life, like if you know, I mean, if you say you turn your back on the sun as you're facing east to say mincha, okay, but that's kind of a false way to look at things. I mean, as I said, you can do both. There's no. You got to have both elements. If you just pray, if you just daven mincha, and you're missing the sunset, you're missing something.
Right. Rosh Hashanah didn't deny that you can't look at the sunset. Rather, when you have a choice between the two of them, the halachically responsible person will pray mincha.
I understand. I think a lot of people perceive, a certain type of Talmid Chacham, or what's called a Talmid Chacham, as someone who's so book-bound that they become desensitized to the life around them.
Right. Well, that's a mistake.
God forbid.
That's a mistake. That's an artificial Talmid Chacham. That's an
It's
artificial.
always the book, and God forbid should look at a tree or appreciate beautiful music or something else that comes up in life.
In yeshiva, we would call it the 5th volume of Shulchan Aruch. There's only 4. It's called the 5th. The 5th is how to apply the first 4 to life. Common sense, dealing with people, sensitivities. Some people learn the first 4 and never learn the 5th one. It's an artificial Talmid Chacham. It's not a real Talmid Chacham. Alright, so blessings don't hold you back from performing your mitzvah. We are going to continue with Gimel.